So in part 1, we learned the basics about what a mask is and how to use a mask to create something really simple like this rainbow text I have for the title here in Photoshop. For step 2, we get to graduate to using this on an actual photo. And because I'm a punny kind of girl, I thought we would keep working with photos of people in masks. So right here you'll see our background layer is a rather uninspiring carnival photo. I caught somebody on the street. I thought, oh, that's interesting. There aren't many people dressed in black because they usually have lots of colors. Let me take the photo. But you can see the lens wasn't really set up. So, and the positioning wasn't right, and I couldn't relocate this person because I didn't know him. So we have a pillar, we got some people, we got some stuff, we got some fence. And of course what you'd really like is a nice creamy bokeh back there. So I thought this might be a good chance to try and fake it. Faking it's never as good as getting it right in the camera, but this is a pretty good time for that. What we want to do, first off, is duplicate our layer. This means we can always revert back to the original, and it gives us a bit of a playground for what I want to do. And so we can just drag it down, and it will create a new one right there. Now we've got this copy, and I'm going to call this the bokeh layer because I want to create a fake bokeh. One of the best ways to do that is to go up here to filter and go to blur gallery and pick field blur, and we're going to take this blur slider and we're going to go crazy with it. I'm going to slide it to where the background is almost not distinguishable. It's there. We can't really tell that there's a column, that there's St. Mark's, or that there is a guy in a rainbow hat behind. If you want to, you can even go and slide these other elements to kind of get the bokeh just where you want it. But for our purposes, I think this is a good amount of blur. It might actually be a little too much. We'll back it off. So we're happy with it. We're going to hit OK. Now, when we come out, as soon as this renders, what you're going to see is we just have pure blur. We have lost the person in this entirely, which is, of course, not what you want. So the first thing I'm going to do is hide that layer. We'll come back to it, but not yet. What I want to do is select this person so that we can work with them. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to use the quick selection tool, and I'm going to make this little circle big enough so we can see what it's doing. And I'm just going to roughly drag this over my person. You'll see sometimes where the colors change, it's where it tends to lose a bit, so I'll have to come back and dress that up a little bit. Let's make sure we get all of the head here. And of course, when you're doing this for reels, you're going to want to be probably a little bit more careful than I am. But you'll see this is a pretty forgiving tool. If you get some area like this you don't really want, if you hit Option, the little plus in the center turns to a minus. And as long as you're holding that in, it kind of unselects whatever you go over. So we can do that. And now I think we've almost got it. We want to make sure we get all the middle here. I think this looks like a pretty good selection, and it didn't take us a lot of effort to get to it. So I'm going to go, now that I have this selection, and actually maybe we want to get rid of a little bit right there. Can I do that? Yes. Perfect. I'm going to go up to Select, and I'm going to choose Save Selection, so it's easy to get back to this. The best place to save a selection is here in the channel, and I am going to call this Woman, because that's kind of what it is. So there we go. We have saved the woman. Now what we want to do is come up to our bokeh layer, and we want to add a mask to that. I've still got this selected, so let me show you a little trick that happens when I click on it. Oh, I was on the wrong layer. Undo. You gotta click the layer you want to. So I'm gonna click on bokeh. Now when I click on it, you'll see it has automatically fixed it so that it reveals everything inside the selection, which of course is the exact opposite of what I want. But here's what's kind of cool. You can double click that, and there should be a way to, we've gone into the select area. This is the new one. Oh my goodness. Let me hit cancel and try it the old way with Option I, or Command I, sorry. Command I inverts your selection. And so you can see now that our selection is making the nice creamy bokeh behind it, and the woman is pretty sharp. There are a couple of places where it isn't perfect, but we can come in. So if we remember, white reveals and black conceals. And so as we're zoomed in, we can see some of these imperfections. And what I want to do is reveal the bokeh where those imperfections are. So I already have white loaded up in my brush, and again, B for the brush tool to pull that up. And I am just going to come in. Oh, I want a harder edge than that. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and get a nice hard edge, and I'm just going to click right over top of it. You can see it's not perfect, but there we go. That's pretty close. For this one, I'm going to have to reduce my brush size. I can do that with the open bracket tool. So I'll reduce that a little bit, and we can come and just go right in here. We can also go back to that base layer and try clicking on the column and selecting the white that way. And as we get closer, I'm having to make it even a little bit smaller. You'll see there's a couple places where this still isn't going to be perfect, and I'm not going to worry about an absolute perfect edge because we're going to go in and feather this mask. It's really hard when you're drawing to ever get a perfect edge around things. You can get close, and in most of these places it looks pretty close, but because it's so close, it also looks a little fake. And you can see right here, it looks like somebody ate a chunk out of her dress. And so I need to reveal the base layer there. So I'm going to have to switch. I'm in white, so I'm going to hit X to switch to my black brush. And I'm going to come right over top of that. And you can see as I go over it, it's kind of coming in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going over that where I think it should be. And if I do too much, I'll be able to tell as soon as I get past the edge. Ah, there we can see right there, and maybe right there we've got just a little bit. So I want to hit X again to get the black back and put a little spot there, a little spot there. There we go. Now nobody has been nibbling on the dress. It looks much more proper. Now I'm going to back up. Now let's see if the new version of Photoshop broke this for me. What I should be able to do is double click on this mask layer, and I should be able to choose to feather the mask. And right here it is. Now it's in the global refinement, so the dialogue's changed a little, but it's still there. We don't want a transparency for this, so we want it to be all the way up at 100%. If you wanted to do that, you could lower it down, and I believe that's working just like opacity at the layer level would. You can also use this to refine your edge. We're not going to get into any of that. We're just going to go straight to feather. And I usually find a radius between 1 and 5 pixels to be plenty good. So I'm going to start with 3. And I don't know if you can tell, but it softens up that edge just a little. I'll show you if we went out to 106, you can see you're seeing a lot more of this detail around. So as we slide down, you'll see it's tightening up. In fact, right there, you can really see the way that halo shifts. And so for me, all I want to do is cover up any of the imperfections in my selection. And so here we can do that. You can see right there, I probably still have a problem in my selection. So we're going to make a mental note, go back and fix that. And now I'm just going to hit OK. We hit OK, we're back out there. I've got to make this one change. And of course, because I want to see the back, I need to conceal what's on that layer. So we're going to switch back to our black ink brush tool, black ink. I'm going to make this just a little bigger so you can see it. I'm just going to go right over that. And it still has my feathering commands in there, so I don't even have to go back in and do that again. What you do have to do is pay a little bit of attention to where those edges are and how you do the feather. You can look down here, you see we're just a little bit prone to some haloing there. So when that happens, I probably need to pull in the mask just a little bit, or also known as revealing a little more of the background. So I can come here, or the bokeh layer, so I can come here and have my white brush and go right along where that white edge is popped up. And you see as I go along it, what it's doing is it's revealing the stuff on that layer because it flips the white paint. So there you go. Very quick, very simple. I don't know that I would say it's a passable bokeh. I think it's definitely too strong to be a passable bokeh, but that's all in the filter. I think from a masking standpoint, we've done a really good job. And in fact, if we wanted to, instead of having a bokeh layer here, I could actually come and just completely fill that in with my foreground color, and then we just have the person mask out onto white. So create the mask, then you're ready to kind of do whatever you want to with the rest of that image. Give it a practice on an image of your own. I think people images are good for this. Flower images, anything with a really strong foreground object you could do it on. So if you got a random picture of a rock or a tree or a butterfly, that's a really good candidate for practicing this technique. It will be easiest for you if you start out practicing with an image where you have a lot of contrast. So the black on this white column was very easy to select. So save your headaches, practice your selection some other time, pick something that's easy to select, come in here and just practice the technique for masking it out. And then we'll be ready for step 3, which is using this with the MacFun tools.